All right. So there are three verses that I'm going to talk about today, and then I'm going to tell a story um, that kind of just popped in my head. There was something that happened in the past that I didn't think about it until today, and this is my third time recording the video. Now, initially, it was going to be about Charlie Kirk's wife, in which I'm going to talk about that for a second. She came out and said that she forgave the shooter, which is very empowering. That is something that you wouldn't do, if somebody did it to you. It just takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of buildup to swallow your pride and be like, listen, I know what you did to me was wrong, and I know that what you did was wrong for my children too. But I'm not gonna let it hang over me. I'm not gonna let that weight sit upon me. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the judgment go towards go to the Lord, and I'm going to forgive you. And then, I'm going to be able to reunite with my husband in heaven when I do see him again. She said that not verbatim, but she did say that. And that's very powerful. That very, very powerful. So, I wanted to reference that real quick, but I also wanted to kind of, turn from that uh, and move on to something that, maybe I can shed some light on. Now, this is a story that, I haven't touched in 2 years now. I did talk about it a couple years ago, especially right before I got out of the military. Uh, I think in about August of 2022, I had talked about it to Chaps, and he gave me some insight, some fruitful insight as to what I should do in the scenario, because I didn't know at the time what was causing my distrust for my ex fiance, or who was at the time my girlfriend. But I know that there was a lot of distrust towards women in general, and it had to do with somebody that had manipulated me, that had wronged me. And let me close my door because I don't want anybody hearing. So, back in the day, when I was younger, very, very much younger, I'm not going to name the family member, um, but there was a family member that had molested me. I'm not going to say what she was to me, just know that she did it. Okay. Um, but she molested me. She manipulated me, and then even blackmailed me, saying that if I were to tell anybody, then she was going to pin it on me, and then she was going to play victim, and then I would get in so much trouble. You know, um, so it was a heavy time, a very heavy time. Because for years I didn't even realize that because of this woman right here, all of this, and this is the point of where it started. This is where I am in my life. All of this time, that little experience had dangled over my head, reaching up to that point in time where I met my girlfriend, and I had to talk to Chaps. And you know what Chaps said? Chaps had said, talk to her, forgive her. And at this point, I went to him because I needed reassurance. I needed to know that this was exactly what I needed to do, because I had prayed to the Lord asking why it is that I don't like I I don't have trust towards my girlfriend. And I want to say, as quick as this snap is, there was a flash, an image that popped up in my head. And it was that same person from years ago, clear as day, just flashing in my head for that split second, just, and then the image was gone. And I needed reassurance. So I went to Chaps to talk to him. And so I did something that day that actually is going to tie into the lesson of the day, which is forgiveness. So let's first say what Jesus had said himself. And Jesus said in Luke 23, verse 34, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they cast lots to divide his garments. Who is they? They is us. Every single one of us in this world had condemned Jesus, had judged Jesus wrongfully, had whipped him, tortured him, done everything, the whole 9 yards. And you know what he did right before he died? Was he said to the Lord, to God up above, who was getting ready to unleash all the angels so that way they can save Jesus from death. And he pretty much said, hold off on that, because I have something I have to do down here. I need you to forgive them, Lord. They've done me a lot wrong, but I'm doing this for them. And so he took on all of the sins, shed his blood on the cross, and it even poured into the dirt. And every single sin that this world had done, that every person on this world had done, was all forgiven. And that if we confess our sins and speak that Jesus is Lord, and all will be forgiven, But we also have to do one thing that he did for us, God himself. The one thing that Jesus prayed that God would do, which is forgive. You see, because we can't just be forgiven and then continue on the hatred. We can't be forgiven and then continue on this perpetual sin that we have been doing. No. We have to forgive those that wrong us. So let's go back to the story that I was talking about earlier. We have to forgive those who wrong us. And I went ahead and told her, I talked to her. In fact, I got in touch with a different relative so that way I can talk to her directly. And then I went ahead and talked to her, told her exactly what was going down. That I no longer trust my girlfriend, and I've been wondering what has been causing it, and everything is leading back to you. So, it led back to her, and I told her that, and I made sure that she understood that. And she tried to, make a little rebuttal here and there. But at the end of the day, the experience was pretty traumatic, for me to continuously have this dangling over my head, and it even affects my future relationships. I don't know what else to say other than, it was a terrible situation. And for years I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything because I was being threatened that I was the one saying that I should that I was the one saying that I wanted to do all of these sexual acts, when in reality I didn't even know what I was doing. At that time I was very new. I didn't know what was going on. To me, like my body was maturing in a way, and I just didn't know what was going on. So yeah, the family member tried to rebuttal it, but at the same time, I told her, I was like, listen, I'm not here to fight. I'm just here to tell you exactly what's going on. And I want to say that I forgive you. And in that moment, she said, I'm sorry that this is even happening. that this even happened to begin with. And, I said, that's fine. I really do forgive you. And in that moment, I wouldn't say just like that, but I know in that moment, it was relieving because no longer did I have this chain attached to me that I could just hang over her every single day because she decided to commit these acts against me, these heinous acts. So I no longer had that weight. I no longer was dragging that around. And it was pretty important too that I forgave her because I also didn't want her to think like, listen, I'm telling you all of this, to try to guilt trip you or anything like that. No, I didn't want to guilt trip her. I wanted to tell her that I forgave her, which I did. That no matter what, I'm not going to hold this against you anymore. In which I didn't. I still see her from time to time, very rarely actually. I don't visit her or anything like that, but very rarely do I ever see her. And yeah, we'll talk. Say a couple small lines, but overall the dialogue is not that long, right? For us it's just, hey, how you doing? She says she's doing well, asking how I'm doing and everything like that. And I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm doing great. Work's been pretty all right. And then I ask her what she's doing for college, this, that, and the other. But all in all, I no longer have that hanging over me. So you're probably wondering what's the point of the story. And I'm gonna get into a Bible verse before I get into the purpose of this video. So this one actually is pretty important. This one is from 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 5 through 8 and verse 10. I'm going to say the whole thing. Now, if anyone has caused pain, has caused it not to me, but in some measure, not to put it severely, to all of you. For such a one, this punishment by the majority is enough. So basically, from what I'm gathering, this is a weight on them, right? They know they did wrong. And now they no longer feel, secure. They are now just having this doubt in their mind. They are now having this heavy weight on their shoulders that they have to carry for the rest of their lives. So that's what I'm thinking. This punishment by the majority is enough. It's just that they now have to live with that for the rest of their life. But then it turns to you. So you should rather turn to forgive and comfort him. Him is whoever wronged you. It's not necessarily gender specific, but that person. Or he may be overwhelmed by excessive sorrow. Again, referring to that weight. So I beg you to reaffirm your love for him. Anyone whom you forgive, I also forgive. Now, is this a sense of romantic love? No, absolutely not. This is a form of love in terms of Christ. Love through Christ, or Christ's love comes through us and and goes on to the next person, right? When we say we love a person, that's Christ's love living through us, and then being projected, being pushed out to another person, right? So that's our love. Reaffirm your love for him is referring to just your love and forgiveness, and anyone whom you forgive, I also forgive. God is going to forgive them. God is no longer going to hold that against them. Now, that's also to say that God can hold it against you. If you have hatred towards somebody, when they really do feel sorry, and I'm actually going to go ahead and tell you that you are obligated, when somebody says they're sorry, that you are obligated to forgive them. But it can be used against you, because when you do reach heaven and the day of judgment happens and you have yet to forgive that person for their misdeeds, then you yourself can be condemned because you decided not to forgive that person. That is something that you don't want being held against you. Okay, here it is. From Luke chapter 17, verses 3 and 4. This is where it's pretty important. Pay attention to yourselves. If your brother sins, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. So in this sense, it's talking about if your brother or sister or, just the person to the left and right of you sins against you, rebuke them. Saying, get away from me. I don't want to be around you. Now, if he says, I'm sorry, and he genuinely means that he is sorry, then forgive him. You are obligated by the law to forgive that person. And if he sins against you 7 times in the day and turns to you 7 times saying, I repent, you must forgive. That is coming from Jesus himself. You must forgive. It seems like a very hard task. Trust me, it is. Because, again, coming from my experience, and I'm sure Charlie Kirk's wife, with how tragic her situation is, I'm sure it was a very tough task. We're going to move away from that. Again, very empowering woman right there. Very empowering woman for the actions. For her actions. It's very amazing. But we're going to turn to my situation too. Not as severe, but pretty traumatic. I got molested. It sucks. It's terrible. And I got manipulated into doing it constantly. We were doing it for a long time too. It wasn't like a one and done thing. It was a long time. I think it was like for a whole summer. I think past that too. I don't even think it was just that summer. It was like anytime I went to that person's house, it was just manipulation after manipulation. It was like I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything to get out of the situation. I was just forced to do it. But it's a very, very hard task. Very hard task. Especially when it happens to you for a long time and then it stops. But the memories and the pain and the suffering just continuously travels with you up until you get to this point where you are in present day. All of that, not forgiving, you're going to be disgruntled. You're going to have despair. You're going to be very, very depressed, because all of that happened and you have yet to forgive that person for what they have done to you. So it is a painful thing if you hold in that resentment. But I'm telling you from experience, that if you forgive that person, oh man, if you forgive that person, oh man, okay, forgive that person. I'm sorry, I'm getting overwhelmed trying to really, really tell you, because right now, as it's coming out, it feels great. It feels so great when you forgive that person. Now, yeah, the memories are still there, but you no longer have that weight. You no longer feel the pain. You no longer feel the torment, the long-lasting torment that you had from the memory, from it actually happening, and in constant memorization of what occurred that specific day or that specific time frame. It's all gone. The feeling of anguish, the feeling of pain and suffering, you no longer have to deal with that. You no longer have to live with that. God takes it all away. He takes it all away. And guess what? You can live tomorrow. not only knowing that you have a spot in heaven because you now have forgiven the person that has wronged you, but now you no longer have to deal with the weight that you carry every single day as you walk. You're dragging your feet because that weight weighs so much. It's 1,000-ton weight. 1,000-ton weight as you're constantly dragging your feet trying to move forward, and it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. But the moment you let go of that chain, because it's just a chain that you've just been holding like this, that's all it is. That's all you're doing. And you just keep dragging your feet, trying to carry the pain on your own. But in the end, you're not going to get anywhere. But I can assure you, Jesus can back me up on this one. The moment you forgive, you just let go of all of it. And you now can move forward, knowing that it's all gone. All that baggage that you had back there. I have no problem carrying my cross now. Why? Because I carried all this weight on top of carrying the cross, which the cross itself is pretty heavy. If you didn't know, I think it's like 300 pounds. That baggage right there too, 1,000+ pounds. Now, and then guess what? You can just walk normally carrying your cross, constantly moving forward. Because all of that heavy weight back there, gone. And God gave you strength. God's going to give you strength. He's going to give you so much strength, you're going to be able to continuously walk forward. Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus. God is good. God is so good. I am so glad that I did that. And I'm able to tell you guys today that I did it. Now, I did this a couple years ago. In fact, 3 years ago to be specific. I forgave her 3 years ago. And to this day, I don't look back at it. I don't hold it against her. Whenever I do see her, it's not, I don't like you. It's, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I hope that you're succeeding in things that you are doing in your life. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm no longer thinking everything that you've done to me back in the day. And now you're sitting here thinking to yourself like, oh, you're gonna be able to succeed. You know what? I hope you fail. No longer are you gonna feel that way. It is no longer gonna feel that way. I'm just saying, if you choose to forgive, God is going to rejuvenate you. First off, he's going to forgive you, because that is something that you are going to, that is something that is going to be held against you. God's going to hold that against you. If you didn't forgive that person, he's going to hold it against you. Now you're forgiven for the hatred, for all the anger, for all the despair that you've been causing yourself, and then not to mention you've been separating yourself from God because you had all of that wrath, gone. Guess what? That hatred you had for that person, gone. And then, not to mention, you grow in a different way. You grow in a very powerful way. I'm not talking about like, oh, you grow a couple inches here and there and you grow some strength, get some mental. I'm talking your spirituality is going to grow exponentially. Now that you have forgiven those people, that have wronged you. I'm just telling you, that's what I did. Well, now I struggle with things today that You know, and I do struggle. It's not like I willingly want to just go against the Lord every single day of my life. It's I really do struggle to try to walk in the path of righteousness. But you know, that's me. You know, I no longer have to deal with hatred though. I no longer have to deal with wrath. I no longer have to deal with depression. I no longer am going to take it out on somebody else when they had nothing to do with that situation. Now, it's move forward with my life, the life that God had intended for me to live. He's going to give me breath. He's going to give me food. He's going to give me some sort of sustenance so that way I can keep living, you know. And he's going to let you grow. He's going to make you, he's going to take that situation and he's going to apply it everywhere else in your life. Now you know. What is the first thing that you should do when somebody wrongs you? Forgive them. If they don't repent, or if they do, forgive them. Do it. Because that's you maturing, not only spiritually, but as a person. So, anyway, I'm sorry for making this a super long video. 26 minutes. I didn't intend for it to be this long, but I was just so passionate. You know, as I'm looking at this website for like Bible verses of forgiveness, you know, it went from, you know, story to story up until now I know what story I should be telling. And this is it. Yeah, it sucks. It happened. You know. But I grew. I'm not saying I'm glad that it occurred, and I pray to God that it never happens to anybody else. But if it does, when somebody gets wronged, I pray that whatever the situation may be, that you grow from it, that you do not become this hateful person that I once was, the person that constantly reminded himself, this person did something so tragic, and I hate that person so much. I no longer am that person. I am the forgiving person. So, yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. So, like I said, I'm not going to talk about the family member. I'm just trying to spread a story that I hope that you guys will at least see, you know, and feel empowered by the Lord, just as I am right now in this moment, because it really does take a lot to come to collect yourself and forgive the person that wronged you, no matter how small or big the problem they caused. So have a great day, guys. God bless y'all. Love y'all. And yeah, today definitely was something.